I'm sitting in my cousin's spare bedroom in Nottingham, staring at a bank statement that shows £347. That's everything I have left from a retirement fund that once totaled over £500,000. I'm 64 years old. I should be living comfortably on a pension and savings accumulated over 42 years of steady work. Instead, I'm essentially homeless, dependent on family charity, applying for housing assistance and supplemental benefits. 5 years ago, I sold my house in the UK for £410,000, took my pension lump sum of £120,000, and moved to Thailand with what I genuinely believed was enough money to live comfortably for the rest of my life. I didn't gamble it away, didn't invest in scams, wasn't robbed or defrauded, no dramatic betrayals or criminal conspiracies. I just spent it. Slowly, steadily, one reasonable-seeming decision at a time, until there was nothing left. Thailand didn't destroy my retirement through malice or deception. It destroyed my retirement through 1,000 small miscalculations, cultural misunderstandings, and false assumptions about what affordable living actually means when you're a foreigner. The expat forums and YouTube videos had made it sound simple. Move to Thailand with your pension. Live like a king on a fraction of UK costs. Enjoy warm weather and friendly people. Stretch your money for decades. What they didn't explain, or what I didn't understand, was that cheap living isn't actually cheap when you factor in visa costs, healthcare gaps, currency fluctuations, cultural expectations, and the slow erosion of capital that happens when you're living off savings without income. I wasn't chasing women or nightlife. I was chasing affordability, trying to make my retirement funds last in a country where the cost of living was supposedly a quarter of what I'd face in the UK. Instead, I burned through over £500,000 in less than 5 years. Not through any single catastrophic decision, but through the cumulative weight of small expenses, helping someone I cared about, health problems I hadn't anticipated, and currency changes I didn't protect against. Now I'm back in the UK with nothing, living on a state pension that barely covers basic expenses, facing the reality that I'll never own property again, never have financial security again, never have the retirement I'd worked 42 years to achieve. This is my story. Not sensational, not dramatic. Just the slow financial collapse of someone who made reasonable-seeming decisions that turned out to be catastrophically wrong. If you've been enjoying the stories I create, please consider hitting the subscribe button. Your support is crucial for the growth of this channel and helps me dedicate time to making these videos despite my commitment to a full-time job. Thank you for being here. My name is Gordon Miles. I'm 64 years old, from Nottinghamshire in the East Midlands of England. And I spent 42 years as a tooling engineer in the automotive industry before retiring and making the worst financial decision of my life. I started as an apprentice at 18, learning precision machining and tool design at a components manufacturer that supplied major car companies. The work was technical, demanding, well paid if you were skilled and reliable. I was both. Rose through the ranks steadily, apprentice to journeyman to senior tooling engineer to team supervisor. By my 40s, I was earning good money, had job security, was building toward a solid pension. I married at 26. Her name was Susan, and we had 2 children, a daughter and a son. The marriage was functional for about 20 years, then started deteriorating as the kids grew up and left home. We divorced when I was 57. No drama, no affairs. Just 2 people who'd grown apart and saw no reason to continue pretending. We sold the house, split assets, and went our separate ways. The divorce left me with about £200,000 after the settlement. I bought a small terraced house in Nottingham for £140,000, invested the rest conservatively, and continued working until I could take early retirement. At 60, I retired with a full pension. The company offered me a lump sum option, take £120,000 immediately, or receive a higher monthly pension for life. I took the lump sum, figuring I could invest it and have both capital and income. My monthly pension would be £1,750, not luxurious, but adequate for a modest lifestyle in the UK. Between the lump sum, my savings, and the equity in my house, I had about £370,000 in total assets, plus the £1,750 monthly. I should have been comfortable. Should have been able to live modestly in the UK, take occasional holidays, enjoy retirement without financial stress. But living in Nottingham on £1,750 monthly wasn't comfortable. It was barely adequate. Rent or mortgage would take half. Utilities, council tax, food, transport, everything cost more than I'd budgeted during my working years. I started researching retirement abroad, countries where the pound went further, where $1,750 monthly could fund a genuinely comfortable lifestyle rather than just scraping by. Thailand appeared repeatedly. Expat forums filled with stories of British men living well on small pensions. YouTube channels showing cheap rentals, inexpensive food, low healthcare costs. I watched dozens of videos, read hundreds of forum posts, created spreadsheets comparing costs, rent in Chiang Mai versus Nottingham, food costs, utilities, everything. The numbers seemed clear. I could live in Thailand for about a third of UK costs. My $1,750 monthly would fund a lifestyle that would cost $5,000 in the UK. Better yet, I wouldn't need to touch my capital. Could live entirely on pension. Let my £370,000 appreciate. Have it as emergency fund and eventual inheritance for my children. That calculation that I could live indefinitely on pension alone was the first major miscalculation, but I didn't know that yet. At 60, after 6 months of research and planning, I sold my house for £410,000, took my £120,000 pension lump sum, and moved to Thailand with £530,000 total. I genuinely believed I'd never need to touch that capital, that it would sit there appreciating while I lived comfortably on $1,750 monthly. I was catastrophically wrong. I arrived in Thailand in January, 6 weeks after my 60th birthday, flew into Bangkok, spent a few days adjusting to the heat and chaos, then traveled north to Chiang Mai. I'd chosen Chiang Mai based on forum recommendations smaller than Bangkok, cooler climate, large expat community, good infrastructure, lower costs than beach areas like Phuket or Pattaya. I rented a studio condo for 8,000 baht monthly, about £200 at the exchange rate then. Small but adequate. Furnished, air-conditioned, decent location near the old city. My budget looked sustainable. Rent, 8,000 baht, £200. Utilities, 2,000 baht, £50. Food, 10,000 baht, £250. Transport, 2,000 baht, £50. Miscellaneous, 3,000 baht, £75. Total 25,000 baht monthly, roughly £625. Well below my 1,750 pension. For the first 3 months, the budget held. I lived simply, cooked most meals at home, used local markets instead of expensive supermarkets, walked or used songthaews, shared taxis instead of private transport. Thailand was exactly what the videos had promised. Warm, affordable, peaceful. I'd wake without alarm clocks, explore temples and markets, eat incredible food for pennies, feel my savings were completely secure. But around month 4, I started noticing expenses the budgets hadn't included. Visa costs. As a British citizen, I could stay 90 days visa-free, but then needed either a tourist visa extension or a proper retirement visa. The retirement visa required proof of income or savings, multiple trips to immigration, photos, forms, fees, visa agent fees if you wanted help, navigating the bureaucracy. Total first-year visa costs, about 25,000 baht, £625, mostly through using agents because I couldn't figure out the paperwork myself. Health checks. The retirement visa required a medical certificate from a Thai doctor. That meant doctor visit, blood tests, chest x-ray, various certifications, cost 8,000 baht, £200. Insurance gaps. I had UK travel insurance initially, but it didn't cover long-term residence. I needed Thai health insurance or international coverage, but at 60, premiums were substantial. The cheapest adequate coverage I found was about 40,000 baht yearly, £1,000. I took it, figuring health was worth the cost. That alone consumed nearly a month of my pension. Banking fees and currency exchange. Every time I transferred money from my UK account to my Thai account, I lost money to exchange rates and transfer fees. The pound to baht rate fluctuated, sometimes costing me 2 or 3% of the transfer value. Small, unexpected costs, condo maintenance fees, replacing broken appliances, Higher utility bills during hot season when I ran air conditioning constantly. Occasional medical visits for minor issues. New clothes because UK clothes weren't suitable for tropical climate. Nothing individually catastrophic. But collectively, these small additional costs meant my actual monthly spending was closer to 35,000 baht, 875 pounds, instead of the budgeted 25,000. Still below my pension, still sustainable, but the margin was smaller than I'd planned. By the end of year one, I'd spent about 420,000 baht, 10,500 pounds, instead of the budgeted 300,000 baht, 7,500 pounds. The 3,000 pound difference came from my capital the first time I'd touched the savings I'd sworn to leave untouched. I told myself it was a one-time adjustment. Learning curve expenses. Next year would be better. It wasn't. I met Fawn during my second year in Thailand. She was 41, originally from a small village in Isan region, living in Chiang Mai and working various informal jobs, sometimes at a massage shop, sometimes selling things at markets, sometimes helping friends with their businesses. We met at a small cafe where I'd gone for breakfast. She was working there temporarily, helping the owner, who was a friend of hers. We started talking basic conversation. Her English was functional. My Thai was terrible but improving. "You live in Chiang Mai?" she asked. "Yes, about a year now. Retired here from England." "You like Thailand?" "Very much. Much better than cold, expensive England," she smiled. "Thailand is good for retirement. Cheap, warm, friendly people." Over the following weeks, I'd see her at the cafe occasionally. We'd talk more each time about her life, my life, cultural differences, what we both wanted from the future. She was a single mother, had a 12-year-old daughter living with Fawn's mother in Isan. She sent money home monthly to support them, usually about 5,000 or 6,000 baht, roughly a third of what she earned. "It's difficult," she explained. "I want to bring my daughter here, give her better education, but Chiang Mai is expensive. I can barely support myself and send money home. Cannot afford to have her live with me." I felt sympathetic. She was working hard, sacrificing to support her family, trying to build a better life. Reminded me of my own years of working to support my children. About 2 months after we'd met, she mentioned a problem. "My daughter's school, they say we owe fees. If I don't pay, she cannot continue. I'm trying to gather money from friends and family, but it's difficult." "How much do you need?" 8,000 baht. It's a lot for me. Maybe I can borrow from Loan Shark, but interest is terrible." 8,000 baht was about 200 pounds. Not significant for me, but apparently crushing for her. "I'll give it to you," I said. "Not a loan, a gift, for your daughter's education." "No, I cannot accept. I want to. I have more than I need. You're working hard for your family. Let me help." She cried, actually cried, hugging me and thanking me profusely. "You are too kind. Most foreign men, they want something. You just want to help." That moment, making her cry with relief and gratitude, felt good. Made me feel useful, generous, like I was making a real difference in someone's life. It was also the beginning of a pattern that would eventually drain 95,000 pounds from my retirement savings. Over the next 3 years, Fawn and I developed what I thought of as a relationship. Not officially boyfriend-girlfriend, we never had that conversation, but we spent time together regularly. She'd stay at my condo occasionally, we'd go to markets and temples together, we'd eat meals and watch movies. She never demanded anything. Never threatened to leave if I didn't help. Never made our relationship explicitly conditional on financial support, but she always needed help, and I always gave it. Year 2. The pattern of requests. Daughter's school fees again. 10,000 baht, 250 pounds. Mother's medical treatment, 15,000 baht, 375 pounds. Motorcycle repair so she could get to work, 12,000 baht, 300 pounds. Fawn's own medical issue, 8,000 baht, 200 pounds. Emergency family expense, she couldn't explain clearly, 20,000 baht, 500 pounds. Total that year, approximately 65,000 baht, 1,625 pounds. Still manageable. I told myself I was helping someone I cared about, building a relationship based on mutual support. Isn't that what partnerships are? Year 3 escalated. Daughter wanted to attend better school. 35,000 baht yearly, 875 pounds. Mother needed dental work. 18,000 baht, 450 pounds. Fawn's sister had emergency, needed help. 25,000 baht, 625 pounds. Motorcycle died completely, needed replacement. 45,000 baht, 1,125 pounds. Fawn lost her job, needed support for 2 months. 24,000 baht, 600 pounds. Total that year, approximately 147,000 baht, 3,675 pounds. That was concerning. More than 2 months of my pension going to support Fawn and her family. But I convinced myself it was temporary. Once her situation stabilized, the requests would decrease. Year 4 was worse. Daughter's continued school fees, plus extra tutoring, 48,000 baht, 1,200 pounds. Mother needed surgery, 65,000 baht, 1,625 pounds. Family land issue required payment to settle, 80,000 baht, 2,000 pounds. Fawn's own medical issue again, 15,000 baht, 375 pounds. General family emergencies I didn't fully understand, 40,000 baht, 1,000 pounds. Total that year, approximately 248,000 baht, 6,200 pounds. Half my annual pension, going to support someone else's family while my own capital was steadily depleting. I started questioning it. Fawn, I want to help, but this is becoming unsustainable. I'm spending more than I planned. My savings are decreasing. I know. I'm sorry. I don't want to ask, but family needs help. What can I do? Let my mother die? Let my daughter fail school? No, of course not. But maybe we need to set limits. Maybe I can help with emergencies but not regular expenses? Everything is emergency. In Thailand, we don't have insurance like England. Everything becomes crisis. And she was right, or at least I believed she was. I didn't fully understand Thai family dynamics. Didn't know if these requests were normal or excessive. Didn't have any framework for evaluating whether I was being used or genuinely helping. Over 3 years, I gave Fawn approximately 460,000 baht, roughly 11,500 pounds. Plus additional money I'd spend when we went out together, trips we took, things I'd buy for her or her daughter. Total across 3 years, approximately 95,000 pounds, nearly 100,000 pounds, given gradually in amounts that seemed individually reasonable for problems that seemed genuinely urgent. Looking back, I can see I was being financially exploited, not through overt scam, but through the subtle understanding that as long as I had money and she had problems, my money would solve her problems. But at the time, I told myself I was building a relationship, helping someone I cared about, doing the generous thing rather than the selfish thing. I was wrong, but I didn't fully understand that until the money ran out and Fawn's presence in my life evaporated with it. The financial catastrophe that finally broke me came during my 4th year in Thailand. I started having digestive problems, severe pain, difficulty eating, weight loss. Initially thought it was food poisoning or stomach bug, but it persisted for weeks. I went to a local clinic. They ran basic tests, said it might be ulcer or infection, prescribed medication. The medication didn't help. I went to a larger hospital. More tests. They found something concerning possible tumor. Needed endoscopy and biopsy to confirm. The endoscopy revealed a mass in my stomach. Biopsies showed it was benign, not cancer, but still needed to be removed to prevent future complications. The doctor recommended surgery. We can do it here. Minimally invasive procedure should recover well, but you'll need to stay in hospital for observation. How much will this cost? Approximately 400,000 baht for the surgery, hospital stay, and follow-up. If you have insurance, they should cover most of it. 400,000 baht, roughly 10,000 pounds. I had insurance. The policy I'd been paying for that cost about 40,000 baht yearly. I filed a claim. The insurance company reviewed it and approved partial coverage. They'd pay 250,000 baht, 6,250 pounds. I'd be responsible for 150,000 baht, 3,750 pounds, as copay and non-covered expenses. I didn't have 3,750 in liquid funds. I had my pension, which was already stretched, supporting my basic living costs and helping Fawn and my capital savings. I'd have to take the money from savings, the capital I'd sworn not to touch. But what choice did I have? I needed the surgery. The mass was benign now, but could become problematic later. The doctor was recommending it strongly. I authorized the surgery, pulled £3,750 from my UK account, converted it to baht, losing money on the exchange, and paid the hospital. The surgery went well. I recovered over 3 weeks, but the financial damage was done. Between the copay, the money I'd lost during those 3 weeks of not budgeting carefully, the additional costs of recovery, special diet, medications, follow-up appointments, the health crisis cost me approximately £4,500 total. That single medical issue consumed nearly 3 months of my pension that had to come from capital instead. When I checked my accounts after recovering, the reality was stark. Starting capital when I'd moved to Thailand, £530,000. After 4 years, given to Fawn over 3 years, to £95,000, healthcare crisis, to £4,500. Regular excess spending beyond pension each month, to £2,500. Yearly x 4 years equals £10,000. Visa, insurance, and unexpected costs, to £5,000. Currency losses and transfer fees, to £3,500. Remaining capital, £412,000. I'd burned through £118,000 in 4 years. Over £100,000. At that rate, I'd be broke in 15 years at age 75. But it was actually worse than that, because my pension wasn't holding its value. When I'd moved to Thailand in January of my 60th year, the exchange rate was approximately 40 baht to the pound. My £1,750 monthly pension converted to 70,000 baht. That seemed like substantial money, more than enough to live on comfortably while leaving my capital untouched. By year 4, the pound had weakened significantly. The exchange rate was now about 38 baht to the pound. My £1,750 monthly pension now converted to only 66,500 baht. That 3,500 baht difference, roughly £90 monthly, meant I was effectively earning less without any change in my actual pension amount. Over a year, that currency loss alone cost me about £1,080 in purchasing power. But the real damage was that my budgeted expenses were in baht, not pounds. My rent, food, utilities, all priced in baht had stayed the same or increased slightly, but my income in baht had decreased. I hadn't protected against currency fluctuation, hadn't kept reserves in both pounds and baht, hadn't structured my finances to hedge against exchange rate changes. I'd simply assumed the rate would stay roughly stable. That assumption cost me thousands of pounds in lost purchasing power. By year 5, the rate had fallen further to about 37 baht to the pound. My pension now converted to only 64,750 baht monthly. That meant I'd lost 5,250 baht monthly, about 140 pounds, in purchasing power purely through currency movement. Over a year, that was nearly 1,700 pounds in losses without any change in my actual pension. My budget that had seemed so sustainable at 40 baht per pound was collapsing at 37 baht per pound. What had been comfortable at 70,000 baht monthly was barely adequate at 64,750 baht monthly. I had to pull more from capital each month to cover the gap. The money I'd sworn not to touch was hemorrhaging away, not through any dramatic loss, but through the slow erosion of currency changes I hadn't anticipated or protected against. By the start of my 5th year in Thailand, the financial situation was critical. My remaining capital, £412,000. My monthly pension value in baht, 64,750, down from original 70,000. My monthly expenses, approximately 42,000 baht, up from original budgeted 25,000. The gap between pension and expenses was about 22,000 baht monthly, roughly 595 pounds. That meant I was pulling 7,000 pounds yearly from capital just to maintain my basic lifestyle. At that rate, I'd exhaust my capital in about 58 years. Except I wouldn't live 58 more years. I was 64. Even if I lived to 90, that was only 26 years. At 7,000 yearly, I'd run out of money at age 78. That calculation terrified me. I'd have 12 to 14 years before being completely broke. And that assumed no more health crises, No more helping Fawn. No more unexpected expenses. I stopped giving money to Fawn, told her I couldn't afford it anymore, that my own finances were strained. She was understanding initially. Of course I understand. You need to take care of yourself. But the requests didn't stop. Her daughter still needed school fees. Her mother still had medical needs. Emergencies still arose. I'm sorry, I'd say. I just can't help right now. My savings are lower than expected. I need to be careful. The requests became less frequent. Our time together decreased. She'd be busy when I suggested getting together. Would take longer to reply to messages. Over about 6 months, she gradually faded from my life. Not dramatically, not with any confrontation, just less contact, less connection, less presence. By the end of year 5, we barely spoke. She'd moved on to other sources of support, whether other foreign men or Thai partners or family or what, I didn't know. She'd simply stopped being part of my life. And with her gone, I felt the loneliness crash over me. The companionship I'd been paying for without acknowledging that's what I was doing had evaporated the moment the payments stopped. I was alone in Thailand, watching my savings drain away, with no partner, no family, no real friends. The expat community existed, but I'd never built deep connections. Had been too focused on budgeting and on Fawn to invest in friendships. At 64, I had to face reality. I couldn't sustain this. The money would run out eventually. Currency fluctuations would continue eroding my pension. Healthcare costs would likely increase as I aged. I had no emergency fund, no backup plan, no safety net. I needed to return to the UK. But returning required money I didn't have. Returning to the UK from Thailand required resources I'd failed to preserve. Immediate costs. Flight ticket, approximately £600. Shipping belongings, or losing them, £0 if I abandoned everything. Breaking condo lease. 1 month penalty of 8,000 baht, £216. UK arrival costs. Temporary accommodation, while finding permanent housing, approximately £800 monthly for basic room. Deposit and advance rent for any permanent housing, approximately £1,600 minimum. Basic setup costs, clothes for UK, climate, household items, etc., approximately £500. Total needed to return properly, approximately £3,500, £4,000. I didn't have £4,000 liquid. I had capital in UK accounts, but accessing it and converting it while managing the transition would be complicated and expensive. More importantly, I faced a worse problem. What would I return to? I didn't own property in the UK, hadn't maintained any rental agreements, had no job, was now 64 and essentially unemployable. My income would be state pension, £875 monthly. I was now old enough to claim it. Private pension, £1,750 monthly. Total, £2,625 monthly. My minimum UK costs would be rent, even basic bedsit, £650 monthly minimum. Council tax, £120 monthly. Utilities, £150 monthly. Food, £200 monthly. Transport, £80 monthly. Other necessities, £100 monthly. Total minimum, £1,300 monthly. That left me £1,325 monthly for everything else. Doable, but barely. With no margin for error, no savings, no emergency fund. And I'd still need to get back to UK and establish myself, which required capital I'd have to pull from my remaining savings, further depleting what was left. The math was brutal. Stay in Thailand and slowly go broke as currency eroded my pension and expenses exceeded income. Or return to UK, spend thousands getting established, and live on bare minimum for the rest of my life. Neither option was good. Both were consequences of decisions I'd made over 5 years, spending capital I'd sworn not to touch, helping someone financially without limits, failing to protect against currency risk, underestimating healthcare costs. I returned to the UK at age 64 with approximately £408,000 in remaining capital, and profound shame about having burned through 122,000 pounds in 5 years. The return itself was humiliating. I couldn't afford to ship my belongings, sold most of what I had in Thailand for pennies, gave some away, abandoned the rest. Returned with 2 suitcases containing clothes, documents, and a few sentimental items. I had nowhere to live. My children, now in their 30s with their own families, had maintained distant relationships with me. We'd never been close even before the divorce, and the years in Thailand had made us even more disconnected. My son offered briefly to help, but he had young children and a mortgage. Couldn't really accommodate a father indefinitely. My daughter was sympathetic, but lived in a small flat with her partner. My cousin Derek in Nottingham, someone I'd barely spoken to in years, offered his spare bedroom temporarily. "You can stay here while you sort things out. But Gordon, I can't have you permanently." My wife's understanding, but this is our home. "I understand. Just a few weeks while I arrange something. I've been here 4 months now." The few weeks became permanent because I can't afford to move out. Here's the brutal financial reality I'm facing. My current income. State pension, £875 monthly. Private pension, £1,750 monthly. Total, £2,625 monthly. If I were to rent even a basic room rent, £500 monthly minimum. Shared house, basic. Contribution to utilities, £60 monthly. Council tax, even reduced, £80 monthly. Food, £200 monthly minimum. Transport, £60 monthly. Bus pass, phone, internet, £35 monthly. Clothes, toiletries, misc, £65 monthly. Total, £1,000 monthly minimum for absolute basic existence. That would leave £1,625 monthly. Sounds adequate until you factor in, I have no emergency fund. I have no healthcare cushion beyond NHS. I have no margin for any unexpected expense. I have no social life or recreation budget. I have no ability to help my children or grandchildren. I have no dignity or independence. And that's only if I never touch my remaining £408,000 capital. But I will touch it because healthcare needs will arise, because emergencies happen, because living on £1,000 monthly doesn't really work in modern UK, even with careful budgeting. At my current trajectory, I'll likely need to pull £5,000, £7,000 yearly from capital for the rest of my life. At that rate, the money lasts maybe 55 to 60 years. Except I won't live that long. I'll likely die before exhausting it. So technically I'm financially secure. I have enough money to survive until natural death, assuming no catastrophic expenses. But I'm not living. I'm existing. In someone else's spare bedroom at age 64, with no home, no partner, no purpose, watching my remaining capital slowly deplete while regretting every decision that brought me here. People ask what went wrong. How did I burn through so much money so quickly in a supposedly cheap country? Here are the lessons I learned too late. Lesson 1. Cheap is relative and temporary. Thailand seemed cheap compared to UK. And it was for basic local living. Rice and noodles from street vendors. Local markets. Minimal air conditioning. No car. Thai government hospitals. But I didn't want to live like a poor Thai person. I wanted Western comfort in a Thai setting. That meant air conditioning constantly, Western food occasionally, private health care, imported goods, transportation that was convenient, not just cheap, entertainment and social activities, those things cost, not UK prices, but enough that the cheap reputation was misleading. Lesson 2. Currency risk is real and devastating. I lost approximately £7,000 in purchasing power purely through pound-baht exchange rate changes over 5 years. That's more than I spent on healthcare, more than I spent on visa costs. I should have kept money in both currencies, converted large amounts when rates were favorable, hedged against fluctuations, budgeted in pounds, not baht. I did none of that, just assumed rates would stay stable. That assumption cost me thousands. Lesson 3. Healthcare is affordable until it isn't. Basic healthcare in Thailand is incredibly cheap. Clinic visit, 300 baht. Medications, often pennies. Routine care, fraction of UK costs. But serious healthcare surgery, hospital stays, specialist care costs thousands, and insurance for people over 60 is expensive or limited in coverage. I should have kept larger emergency medical fund, understood insurance gaps, planned for likelihood of health issues as I aged, factored in healthcare inflation. Lesson 4. Relationships without boundaries drain resources. I gave Fawn approximately £95,000 over 3 years. Not because she threatened or demanded, because I couldn't say no, couldn't establish boundaries, couldn't distinguish between helping and enabling. I should have set clear limits from the beginning. Understood cultural expectations around foreign men supporting Thai families. Recognized when help was becoming dependency. Protected my resources. Lesson 5. No exit plan equals trapped. I moved to Thailand assuming I'd never need to return. Didn't maintain UK address. Didn't keep emergency return fund. Didn't preserve relationships that would help if I needed to come back. When I had to return, I had no support system. No housing lined up. No plan beyond fly back and figure it out. I should have maintained UK connections. Kept £20,000 in dedicated return fund untouchable for anything else. Planned for possibility of return even if unlikely. Preserved relationships with family. Lesson 6. Hope is not a financial plan. I hoped my money would last. Hoped the exchange rate would stay favorable. Hoped healthcare would stay cheap. Hoped Fawn's needs would decrease. Hoped I'd never face emergencies. Hope is not a plan. Hope does not protect against reality. I should have created realistic worst-case budgets, tested assumptions regularly, adjusted when expenses exceeded projections, protected capital ruthlessly. The worst part isn't being broke. It's knowing I did this to myself. Nobody scammed me. Nobody robbed me. Nobody forced me to give Fawn money or move to Thailand or touch my capital. Every decision was mine. Every expense was chosen. Every risk was ignored deliberately. I can't blame Thailand. The country didn't lie to me. The costs were real, the risks were visible, the challenges were documented. I just didn't believe they applied to me. I can't blame Fawn. She never pretended to love me. Never promised anything. Never threatened to leave if I didn't help. She had needs, I had money. We had an unspoken arrangement. When the money ended, so did the arrangement. That's not betrayal, it's transaction. I can't blame the expat forums or YouTube channels. They showed the best case scenarios, but the information about costs and challenges was available if I'd looked for it. I just focused on the success stories and ignored the warnings. I can only blame myself for assuming I was smarter than the statistics, believing cheap living would stay cheap as I aged, failing to protect against obvious risks, touching capital I'd sworn to preserve, not maintaining boundaries in relationships, burning through £122,000 in 5 years without acknowledging it was happening. The guilt is crushing. I had over £500,000, should have been set for life. Instead, I'm 64, living in my cousin's spare bedroom, dependent on family charity, facing decades of poverty because I made reasonable-seeming decisions that turned out to be catastrophic. My children barely speak to me. Not because they're angry, they're just disappointed. Their father had money, had security, had the retirement he'd worked 42 years to achieve, and he destroyed it through a series of bad choices they'd warned him about. "Dad," my son had said before I moved, "are you sure about this? Thailand? You don't know the country, don't speak the language, don't understand the culture. What if something goes wrong? I've done the research. The numbers work. I'll be fine." I wasn't fine. The numbers didn't work. Something went wrong, lots of things went wrong, and I had no backup plan. I'm writing this as a warning to anyone considering retiring abroad on a fixed income. It can work. I know expats who've successfully retired in Thailand, Philippines, Portugal, Mexico, wherever. Some are thriving, some are comfortable, some are happy. But it requires brutal honesty about costs. Everything costs more than promised. Budget for double what the forums say, and you'll be close to reality. Currency protection. Keep money in both home currency and local currency. Convert large amounts when rates favor you. Never assume rates will stay stable. Emergency funds. Keep at least 1 year of expenses in immediately accessible cash. Keep a separate return home fund of £20,000, £30,000 untouchable for anything else. Healthcare planning. Insurance gets expensive or limited as you age. Budget for likelihood of health issues. Understand what's covered and what isn't. Relationship boundaries. If you're supporting someone financially, set clear limits from day one. Understand cultural expectations. Don't confuse financial support with love. Maintain home connections. Keep address. Keep relationships. Keep options. You may need to return, and returning without support system is devastating. Test assumptions regularly. If your budget says you'll spend X, but you're actually spending Y, adjust immediately. Don't hope it'll average out. It won't. Protect capital ruthlessly. If you plan to live on pension, investment income alone, never touch capital except for genuine emergencies. Every pound you touch is gone forever. Plan for aging. You will get older. Healthcare will become more important. Mobility will decrease. Social connections will matter more. Budget for those realities. Have an exit plan. Know when you'd return, how much it would cost, what you'd return to. Test the plan periodically. Update it as circumstances change. I did none of these things properly. And now I'm 64, broke, living on family charity, facing decades of poverty because I believed Thailand would save my retirement instead of destroying it. Thailand didn't destroy my retirement. My assumptions, my decisions, my failure to plan those destroyed my retirement. Thailand was just the place where my bad decisions played out. I'm still in Derek's spare bedroom. It's been 5 months now. His wife is getting frustrated. I can hear the tension in conversations, the careful politeness that means they want me gone but don't know how to say it. I'm on waiting lists for council housing. Been told it could be 6 months to a year before anything becomes available. Meanwhile, I exist in limbo, not homeless, but not housed. Not destitute, but not secure. My remaining capital sits in UK accounts earning minimal interest. £408,000 that should have funded comfortable retirement, now barely enough to ensure I don't starve in old age. I don't hate Thailand. Don't regret the 5 years exactly. The experiences were real. The weather was warm. The food was amazing. The initial freedom from UK constraints was genuine. But I regret the decisions. Regret not protecting my capital. Regret not establishing boundaries with Fawn. Regret not maintaining UK connections. Regret assuming everything would work out because I'd done spreadsheets that showed it would. Someone asked recently if I'd warn others against moving to Thailand. No, I wouldn't warn against Thailand specifically, but I'd warn against moving abroad without understanding real costs, assuming cheap stays cheap, touching capital you can't replace, ignoring currency risk, building relationships without boundaries, having no exit plan, believing hope is a strategy. Thailand works for some people. It failed for me, not because Thailand was wrong, but because I was wrong about what I could sustain. I'm 64 years old and broke. Not literally, I still have £408,000. But compared to the £530,000 I started with, compared to the comfortable retirement I should have had, compared to the security 42 years of work should have provided, I'm broke. And I did it to myself. One reasonable seeming decision at a time, over 5 years, until there was nothing left but regret and a spare bedroom I'm increasingly unwelcome in. That's my story. Not dramatic, not sensational, just the slow financial collapse of someone who believed the YouTube videos, trusted the spreadsheets, and learned too late that cheap living isn't cheap when you're a foreigner getting older in a country that isn't yours. Thailand didn't destroy my retirement. I destroyed my retirement. Thailand was just where I did it.